Hi, good evening, friends, and welcome to another live episode of Hashtag SU. Today is a beautiful Monday evening, and this actually spells the start of a very busy week at Silliman University. In fact, only last Monday, April 11, we started with a registration for senior high school, and senior high school is still ongoing until today, and until such time that we open for the first semester of classes at Silliman University. So please check out our online registration as well as the actual registration is now ongoing at the senior high school department over at the Katipunan Hall of Silliman University. So friends, tonight we have two segments for our live episode. Our first segment is on wellness and sports. After all, this is the start of the summer season, and I think we ought to have many activities that will keep us fit, ready for the next school year. So we have invited, first and foremost, immediately to my left, and may I introduce them to you now, a very young, she's a 14-year-old student at Silliman University. She's in grade 8, and recently she figured in a Palarong Pambansa, the Palarong Pambansa competition, specifically in the field of archery, and we will talk about her as she pursues her other interests as well. She is Miss Nicole Cola Marie D. Tagle. Hello, Cola.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good evening.
Evening.
Yes, that's all right. Good morning for tomorrow. That's all right. Pretty fine. And beside Cola is actually no stranger to Hashtag SU because we have invited him in the past. But still, he will not be talking about anything else because that is really his field. He is now the athletics director of Silliman University, Assistant Professor Junicio, but I usually call him Nino Pinheiro. Hello, Nin, and welcome back to Hashtag SU.
Hi, ma'am.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am, and good evening.
Yes, and tell us now, Nin. I'll start with Nino first. We have a summer wellness program now at Silliman University, and I think we started last week, right, with the opening ceremony.
Yes, last week. We opened our summer wellness activities last Friday, and then we concluded the activity last Sunday. It was yesterday in the afternoon.
We're done already with the
Yes,
summer
ma'am.
wellness?
It was a whole week activity for
okay.
faculty, staff, and project employees of
Okay.
the university.
Yes, but I think we will still have a sports fest for all employees, right?
Yes, there is. For the second part of the summer wellness activity, we will be having our basketball festival, which will be participated by 12 teams from the different units in Silliman University. And of course, with the two guest or invited teams to be part of the summer wellness basketball.
Okay, and which teams are these?
These are coming from Silliman Heights
Okay.
and Silliman University Co-op.
Okay. So there are now several teams to compete in the forthcoming Summer Sports Fest, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But the wellness activities that we have been doing actually annually, Nin, is something that is embedded in the program of the university because after all, not only are we focusing on fire, faith, instruction, research, and extension, but we also ought to take care of our bodies, and this is really very important. What activities have been done so far?
Just for this summer, the summer wellness activities, and then of course, some of our athletes from elementary, high school, and college level are also participating, especially the School of Basic Education. They just participated the Palarong Pambansa 2016 at Legazpi Albay.
Yes,
And then our college athletes, varsity, will be preparing for the Series Cup. This will be next month in Silay, Negros Occidental.
So you're training our athletes for this particular event.
I'm not the one in charge of the training, but I am monitoring and controlling of the coaches and student athletes.
Okay. What are the events that we will be participating in?
This is selected. They invited our School of Basic Education, particularly or specifically the elementary and high school, and the college. These are under 18, under 21 over, and we also have 12 and under.
And this is simply just one tournament or one event among the many that we participate in throughout the year, right, Neil?
Yes, ma'am. One of the events that our student athletes or the varsity players preparing for the whole school year.
Yes, and in fact, we have not even mentioned our Founders Day sports activities yet,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
but very good. Very good that you also mentioned the School of Basic Education because Kola here is, of course, a member of the School of Basic Education. She is now in grade 8, right? Entering grade 9. Correct,
Yes, ma'am.
Cole? And you are all of 14 years old and you have a long way to go. And may I announce this? You won 2 golds and 5 silver. 4 for individual and then 1 for your team in the field of archery in the recently concluded Palarong Pambansa in Legazpi, Albay, as mentioned by Professor Pinheiro. So congratulations to the Silliman University archery team. But I'd like to ask you, Kola, after all, you've been in this particular event, no, for quite a number of years already. How many years have you been doing archery as an event?
Actually, just 2 years.
Okay, oh, but that's a long time to also be an expert of, huh? And winning medals. But what made you interested in archery?
First of all, my dad persuaded me to join archery because one of my uncles was willing to support one of my cousins. Then, because he was really into archery, then I thought to myself, maybe I want to become like Merida or from Brave or Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games. So I thought I should just give it a try.
Okay, so these are your icons or your idols or models, so to speak, right? But of course, we have our female archers who are also Silimanians, no? While we were preparing for the show, we mentioned Lisa Ignalaga. There is Joanne Chan Tabanyag. Who else are our Silimanian archers?
Crisabel Merto.
Okay, yeah, yes, Crisabel, right? Merto.
Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, Roel Merto as well, who is your trainer or your coach. Yeah.
And Crisaldo Merto.
Ah, okay, great. Now, as far as training for the Palarong Pambansa and even from past events, Cole, what do you do? Do you have a schedule? Do you have a regimen? What do you do? What does your coach tell you to do? Are there certain things that you need to follow? Some do's and don'ts? And how do your parents also support you in this particular event?
During school days, the only time that we could practice is only after classes. But if we really, if the tournament is really close, we would fit in like probably during lunchtime we would practice. But then usually it's from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. But on weekends or like right now, summer days, we would start at around 8 a.m. and then end up probably at 5 p.m.
On your own, are there certain things that you do on your own? For example, even if your coach may not be there, or even if there is no forthcoming tournament, what do you do to prepare yourself?
My coach really told me to watch international videos to prepare my mind for such to set my mind on these types of competitions. Other than that, probably I do practices once in a while, even without the coach or anything. But then it's like that, yeah.
It's a tough job after all, to be an athlete. And not only are you an athlete, but you need to combine also your studies as well as your sports. Now, in the Palaro, Kola, did you make friends with other athletes as well, not only in the field of archery?
We really didn't have time.
Really? No time to make friends with other
No,
athletes?
like in the field of archery, of course,
Okay.
I've seen familiar faces from the past competitions, and then I've met new ones. Everybody is really nice. Everybody's a good sport, but then for the other fields, I never had the chance because we left earlier than expected.
You know, I noticed as I was telling Professor Pinheiro, I noticed that you have a very good posture. Does it come with being an archer and as an athlete, as a matter of fact?
In the sport, we really have this standard form. Na we have to straighten our back, so we even out the pressure, like ganon. I think it became a habit, or like it's something na it happens subconsciously.
Yeah. Yes, it's natural in you
It's
already.
Somewhat,
Okay.
yeah.
You're only 14, but Nin, she looks very tall, no? For a 14-year-old.
Yes,
tall.
ma'am. She's not looking 14.
Oh, yes, exactly. Is that because of the regimen that she also follows as an archer? You mentioned, Nin, something, no? Plyometrics as a discipline that one needs to maintain.
Yeah, every athlete needs to have a conditioning, and plyometrics is one of the best form of conditioning so that athletes will be able to perform better and excellently during their competitions or any other games that they are preparing.
For the part on Cola's part, actually, she needs to be good in her studies as well, because if she is not able to maintain her grades, but of course she does that, no? Her being a varsity player of the School of Basic Education may not continue at all if she cannot maintain her grades, of course, no? But that's something that Cola already does,
Yeah.
maintaining her grades, good grades, and at the same time do well also in the events that she participates in.
Yes, ma'am. I salute all the varsity players and student athletes in
Yes, yes.
Silliman University because of the balancing act that they are doing
Okay.
in academics and in the extracurricular activities, like into sports, into music, or any other extracurricular activities that the university is giving them for an avenue aside from the academic side.
We offer scholarships, right, for our varsity players.
Actually, we don't have
Our
any athletic scholarship program,
Okay.
but we are calling our scholarship as student grant in aid. So they are receiving this at the end of the school year or at the end of the semester upon the recommendation of our university coaches.
Yes, and I think at the end of every school year, we honor our student athletes, our athletes, especially those who have brought honor to the university, and everyone for that matter.
Yes, ma'am. Next year, we are planning to those athletes who are graduating or belong to the senior level, that they will be recognized and acknowledged and be given jacket and certificate awards. So I hope the university will approve our one of the priority budget for our athletes.
Okay, so that will be for them, no, for the athletes
Yes,
by
ma'am.
next school year.
By next school year
Yes.
until
Yes, and henceforth, of course.
Yes.
Henceforth, yeah. Look at Cola, no? She's wearing this blue jacket. There you are. And it says Juan Negros. This is your uniform for the Negros Island region.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay, so you together with other NIR athletes wear this. Is this only for archery or for all other sports?
For all, ma'am.
Okay.
It's the uniform
Okay.
they issue for this year.
And yes, and I think Professor Pinheiro knows this, and of course we have to inform our televiewers. Cola here is also a shooter. Can you imagine that? And many years ago, well, you were still much younger. You're 14 now, but when did you start being a shooter? Very, very young, I think, if I remember it correctly.
I actually started at the age of 6.
My goodness, 6 years old. Okay.
But started competing at around age 9.
My goodness, that's still very young. So you started out as a shooter, of course with a pistol, with a pistol. At the age of 6, went on to compete at the age of 8 or 9 or something. And in fact, you became number 1 in her
number
category.
one in the Philippines at her age.
At her age, yes. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? So we're looking at somebody who is a potential, not only in archery, but even in the field of shooting. Can you imagine? Now, Cole, being a shooter and also being an archer, I think it's kind of related, right? Because you need to shoot. You shoot, of course, using your bow and arrow for your archery, and then a pistol for your shooting category or your event in shooting. Now, where did you get all this stamina, this enthusiasm, inspiration, if I may call it as such, for such sports that perhaps may even be identified very, very well or very much with the males, with males?
I really idolize my dad.
Oh,
I look
there
up
you
to
go.
him.
Okay.
Yes.
Your dad is watching and your mom is here, right? Yeah. 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 So you idolize your dad.
Yes, well, everything he does, I try to follow. Even the way he walks, I try to follow. My mom would even scold me because sometimes I act like a guy. So
You're very feminine, huh? Okay. And then so that's how it all started.
yes, ma'am.
Ah, okay. But so in other words, both your parents gave you their blessing for you to go into shooting, huh? And of
Yes,
course
ma'am.
archery for that matter.
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
still doing shooting now, and or doing some practice shooting, practical shooting as they call it?
Yes, ma'am. But not as
Not competing.
I still compete, but then the practices, like the amount of time exerted, isn't that much compared to years back.
When you competed when you were 8 or 9 years old, was it here in the Philippines or I think it was abroad?
It was in Cebu,
Ah, okay.
but then it was Asia Pacific, so
Also, there were other participants.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Coming from other countries for that matter?
Yes, ma'am.
My goodness. And at such a young age, you were number one in that particular category. Okay. I was asking you earlier, and perhaps your dad and mom should also attest to this, no? You're only 14, but definitely you'll grow older, no? As the years go by. Aren't you afraid that perhaps you might not be able to get a boyfriend, huh? Forgive me, Pinky and Nick, because they know that you're a shooter and that you can very well protect yourself.
Hopefully, I'll find a guy with the same skills, probably.
Same skills, also a shooter, perhaps, no? And in fact, I want that statement to really come from you about gun proofing. Maybe you can tell our televiewers that.
For practical shooting, it's really good to gun-proof your child than to child-proof your gun. As confusing as it sounds, it simply means to educate your child about shooting, about the consequences of seeing a gun and then using it. Because like in movies, you would really see guns used violently, and then children, of course, being curious, would use them. So just like what my dad did, he educated me about the guns, about how it's used, when it's used, and then to child-proof your gun, to hide it somewhere, because that will only feed their curiosity, especially toddlers. Yeah.
And in fact, we have heard over the news, no, not only recently but even in the past. I think if I remember it correctly, a yaya, no, from Quezon City many years ago was actually killed by her ward because the ward was watching RoboCop, and of course RoboCop was practically shooting everybody, no, and he got the gun of his dad. Kept somewhere, of course, perhaps in a drawer, not knowing what to do with it, but because he saw it in RoboCop, simply just shot the yaya, no? Not knowing, of course, that it could be fatal. But I think that's really very good, no? Gun-proof your child rather than child-proofing your gun. Because usually our tendency, right, Nin, is to like hide whatever bladed weapons we may have, guns for that matter, and other things that may harm our child, but without educating the child. Yeah, that's very good. And coming from somebody as young as Cola, I think our televiewers, our young televiewers, should also be educated about it, and even our parents as well. Now, Cole, you are a shooter. You're also into archery. I was about to ask you as well. Do you go into other sports like martial arts and others?
I tried swimming actually.
Okay,
Coach
swimming.
Nino was
Ay,
my
good.
coach.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Oo.
but for martial arts, my family and we really talked about it. I was slightly interested because in movies you see the girls always always hyped, always the one to save, probably always the one to save the boys. Yes, but due to the risks of accidents, they told me na probably once you get older or somewhat years from now.
Then that would be all right, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Oo. After all, you need to be careful with your hands, no? As well as your balance and other things besides, because you're into archery and you are also into shooting. So heaven forbid, no? What may happen to you, especially when you engage in martial arts, for that matter. Nin, insofar as your students are concerned, our young Silimanians, no? What pieces of advice do you give to them, especially for those who'd like to pursue a career in sports, like Cola here, not only in archery or even shooting, but even in other sports for that matter, swimming, others, track and field?
So those who are interested to be in sports or becoming a sports enthusiast, you should have, first thing is the passion to play. Educate yourself to the game, not winning. And then you also, thirdly is you also have to balance your academics and your being as a student athlete. So in that way, you will be able to become a successful student athlete in the future if you want to go seriously about of being a professional athlete, because becoming a professional athlete takes a lot of time, especially practices, because you have to sacrifice one from the other. So that is why some will say, kana mga athletes, they belong to the college dropout, because they will sacrifice the most important thing in life, which is education. That is why after they retire from being a professional athlete, they go back to education. So just like, for example, Pacquiao really did not finish elementary years, but now he is able to go back to where he stopped, and he educate himself to become a degree holder. And if we can remember, he was given
I think he was given an honorary
degree
Oo.
in Cebu.
Yes, okay.
One of the school in Cebu. So that's how the life of a professional athlete, it's really, really hard.
So you have to balance, no?
Balance everything.
Academics and then of course your sport.
Yes.
Yes. But of course it's good to be a professional athlete, not to forget, of course, or not to sacrifice
Yes.
education for that matter. Nin, you talked about discipline, and since we're about to close this particular segment, you talked about discipline. And then I'll ask Cola here, as well as Mr. Pinheiro, as a way of closing our segment. Again, words of wisdom can you give to our televiewers who would like to engage into sports, whatever sports it could be, and instill discipline in themselves? No? Maybe I will start with Professor Pinheiro and then Cola. About discipline.
Okay. Discipline is very hard to describe, because you have to perform it. You have to earn it. But if you are really serious and have the passion to become somebody in the field of sport, then you should instill discipline, like preparing yourself for practices, always educate yourself to the game, and then always look back to the people behind where you are now. Because some athletes tend to forget, but not only some, a few. Always look back, and this word, a thank you word, is enough for those people behind who worked and gave you education, who spend a lot of time teaching you the basic skills. So it's not all about winning. So it's about discipline to achieve everything in sports.
Yes, and I like your way of putting it, no? Thanking them and being grateful.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, very good. Yes, and Cola, discipline in yourself, to your perhaps fellow athletes, or those young people out there, Silimanians and everyone in the greater community who would like to also get into where you are now. And I'm sure you still have a long way to go, huh? Yeah, sige, Cole.
All I can say is to always do your best. If you think that you're too lazy or you're too tired to do something, it's almost like saying na you as the step is really far, even though it's really near. Discipline, I think Sir Pinheiro has covered it all about discipline. Basta without discipline, there's also no achievement.
Wow, that's coming from a 14-year-old girl. I have to listen to her, huh, and discipline myself to also lead a healthy lifestyle. Wow. So with that, friends, we end this particular segment of Wellness and Sports, and we shall pause for a brief reminder before we go into our second segment. Thank you once again, Ms. Cola and Mr. Pinheiro of our athletics department.